In a piece for the publication Popular, you wrote, growing up in Kisumu, you were always aware of the train, but only in the back of your minds. So can you tell us about now your not great grandfather, but we already talked about him. Now let's talk about your grandfather and maybe growing up in Kisumu and the train to Uhuru. So basically, I loved the piece because you talked about, quote, nobody we ever knew boarded the train. No one owned a train set or train paraphernalia. In fact, apart from the train at the annual agricultural show, no one had ever encountered one up close. So that was a very, very interesting kind of dynamic. So yeah, can you just talk about, you growing up in Kenya, and then also some of that aspect of, transportation and your grandfather as well?
Yeah. So I'm saying, like, I'm sitting somewhere with an aunt of mine and my grandparents. In fact, like the very aunt whose Facebook post inspired my article. And we're having dinner in this, like, it's the sort of establishment. It's so colonial that in 1921, a bunch of settlers sat in the lobby and, like, just from the lobby, like, shot a lot of, like, African women who were, like, nearby. It's a famous massacre in Nairobi. So we're sitting in this hotel and we are the only black table, right? Because, like, there's, like, the waiters, but you're not supposed to notice that. So we're sitting there and there is a person in Kenyan colonial history called Carey Francis.
Okay.
And I guess, like, Kenyans of a certain age assume that my name is because of Carey Francis, even though it's not. So anyway, my grandfather and I are talking about Carey Francis, and I'm saying all these things about, like, oh, like, he's a terrible person, he's a colonialist, it's not such a good thing as a good colonialist, whatever. And I'm quoting this person called Odinga, and my grandfather is like, he's like, forget about Odinga. Odinga just had a grudge with Carey Francis. And he says something like, one time Oginga wanted to go on holiday, and in fact, it's actually in Oginga's book. Oginga wanted to go on holiday somewhere to the coast, but Africans were only allowed to, like, board the third-class carriages of the train.
Okay.
But he wanted to buy a first-class ticket. He didn't see why not. He can afford it. Why
Let's
not?
go.
It became a whole tiff with Carey Francis, who was his boss, because, like, Carey Francis had offered to buy him second-class tickets, but Oginga was like, no, not third class, not second class, I want first class. And there are, like, prior rifts, but, like, that was, like, one of, like, the final rifts. So, like, thinking about that train story, and then, like, also, like, other stories about trains, like, appeared in, like, Kenya just, like, announced, like, these deals to build a new railway line to replace, like, the British built railway line. And there's all this, like, of course, it doesn't make any financial sense. It's I guess, a white elephant. But, like, there's this language in which, like, this new railway line is being sold as, like, there's going to be, like, electric trains, there's going to be water, we're going to, like, move from one part of the country of the other, like, in a few hours.
Right.
And so thinking about all those trains, it's just, like, started, like writing that article around, like, a vague idea of trains, right? And then, like, other trains. My mom would go to high school and she would use the train. And she told me the story once of being in the train. So from, like, Kisumu to somewhere called Kitale in like close to northern Kenya.
Okay.
But it's, like, it's part of where it's called the White Highlands, because, like, the settlers took a lot of land there. Okay. And being in the train, and at some point, like, a lot of times, like, some white settlers would come in and, like, force everybody, all the Africans, to, like, go and sit in another carriage, right? And this is, like, of course, post independence. So that train story, and then, like, like, from TV, especially, like, Western TV, there's a lot of, like, train culture. You have, like, kids having train sets, or train paraphernalia. I think Big Bang Theory, like, Sheldon Cooper, a weird obsession with trains. And so you're seeing all this and like hearing all these stories from my mother, whatever stories I'm
Right.
reading in books about like the train system in Kenya, but like it doesn't exist at this point, right? At this point, I don't think there are any train rides between Kisumu and Nairobi, between like Nairobi. There are no train rides in Kenya, full stop. And there hardly even train rides for cargo. So I was
Right.
thinking
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about like that lack of trains, like I'm a kid who read Harry Potter, so like they would take the train to school, but like I'd never seen a train afterwards, apart from like Kenya like has this thing called like I think it's a British colonial thing called
Hmm.
like cultural show, where like in each town there's like it's mostly a display for cultural goods, right? Crops, um, animals, new ways of planting,
Sure.
etc., etc. But then you'll have like certain things to like excite mostly the kids and I guess the adults, right? Who's
Hmm.
painting. Um, you'll have like weird things like, look, woman who can fit in a bottle. And so like the creation show in Kisumu, like there was a train, but it was on a loop of maybe 500 meters or 600 meters. So
Oh,
you board it and like go on like one or two laps
it's over.
and
Yeah.
and it's over. And
Yeah.
so from then until I was 22, that was
Oh,
my only experience on trains ever, right? Yeah. So that's how I started writing that essay.
well, so when you were 22, what was that? Did you go like somewhere else and get on like a high speed? What was that experience?
It was not a high speed train. So at some point I moved to Nairobi
Uh-huh.
and I discovered that there's a train system service in Nairobi that nobody ever talks about. It's like it's a secret. Like I thought it was like, wait, there's a train service in Nairobi, and like people are like, yes, and it goes to like particular to certain places, right?
Okay.
Um, and I took the train the first day, and it was so exciting. It was like, I mean, like first of all, like the allure of you don't have to sit in traffic, like that
Oh
was
yeah.
really cool.
Just that you mean the logistics of just getting from point A to
Yeah,
point B? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no traffic jams, whatever. But also like the concept of like, oh my God, we're in a train. Look at us in
Yeah.
a train. And I would like catch the train at I think 6 to go home. And I
Uh-huh.
would have my book and I'd be reading the book. And it's like this really old locomotive. So you can totally hear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.